Hi, and welcome to our webinar. It's the 2019 Q1 Retail Innovation Radar Report, 6 key takeaways from NRF and NYC Retail. I'm Ed, this is Laura.
Okay, we got a lot to talk about today.
We do, so let's jump into it. And you're gonna notice our tone and tenor is gonna be a little bit different this time because we took a trip to New York this year for NRF, but we walked miles and miles and miles in New York City, and we gotta say,
30.
Lots of miles. And we gotta say, things have changed. So the innovation train for retail has definitely left the station. There's no question about it. There's so much going on, from pop-ups to flagships to just your rank and file retail is changing and evolving. So we know there's a lot of brands and retailers out there that get our reports, that watch these webinars, that are having meetings, that are talking to C-levels and trying to figure out an innovation path forward. And if you're still in meetings, you're way far behind. You're way far behind. You have to be thinking about action. You have to be thinking about, what do we do to kickstart our innovation? We have a plan for that at the end of this webinar. We'll tell you about that in a second.
It comes from a real place of passion. 2 decades in this industry, we're having so many more conversations than ever about why are we not further? What's holding us back? So much of this is common sense, right, Ed?
Mm-hmm.
So much of this is just common sense, empathy, and strategy with purpose. So let's really dig into how we can come together to help this.
Yeah. So this is the second webinar, but it's the release of our 3rd quarterly report on the Retail Innovation Radar. So the radar itself is made up of 12 in-store technologies, and we track the 12 most used in-store technologies, but we're tracking more the shopper adoption of those technologies, say, rather than what's new and a shiny object in the space. So at the early next week, we will have our 3rd report released. So if you're on this webinar, you actually are on the list to receive this. So it'll be coming out early next week.
And to be clear, this is what we're seeing from the trenches as kind of strategic innovation people for retail. We are not the analysts. This is kind of just our opinion from the human perspective.
Yeah, exactly. So we're practitioners. We say we're consultants. We do agency things, but when it comes down to it, we're practitioners. We're in the trenches with these retailers, with these brands, with the shoppers. So we see what's going on, and we know what they're doing, what they want to do, and what retail isn't giving them yet. So just so you know, you understand the retail radar itself, on 6 different slides, you're going to see a radar like this. And just so you know what you're looking at, the closer the dot is to the center of the radar means the more shopper adoption that it has. If it's on the edge of the radar, that means it's early adopters, it's innovative, but people really haven't adopted it yet.
Yeah, some have even fallen off from the first and second.
Exactly. So you're going to see we replaced one, and we'll tell you about that here in a minute.
So let's set the tone. We constantly scanning the internet and looking at what people are reporting on, saying, and catching inspirations. And this is a recent report that came out this week. Send us a note if you'd like the link. But it's a compelling one. It's also concerning to us that this is a self-report from 300 of the big retailers on how you doing, self-assessment, look inside. And 37% feel like they're doing pretty good, but 54% are surviving, 9% struggling. We feel like this is probably over purported, honestly. Mm-hmm. From what we're seeing, once again, in the trenches, people are in 2 places. They're either moving ahead and they got it, or they're scared and don't know what to do. And in some cases, the teams know what they need to do, but they can't get leadership to buy in, right?
Well, yeah, if you think about the economy, the last couple of years has been pretty robust, right? And yet we're seeing a lot of retailers going out of business and closing stores. If it's been good, a thriving economy in the last couple of years, there's a lot pointing toward 2019 not being as good as the last couple of years. In fact, some are saying for a downturn or even a recession. So when we're talking about, the economy and how it relates to retail, if we're not succeeding over the past couple of years, we have to change. There's no question, because when the economy slows down, and it inevitably will at some point, you've got to be positioned to capture that new shopper and the new habits that they have. And things like this will help you kind of guide through that.
You can no longer be in catch-up mode,
mm-hmm.
but you can also no longer approach innovation from a this is cool to do perspective.
Right.
This is key. You have to get smart about how you're planning these things, measuring them, and proving business value to move into the footprint. We're going to talk about how and a couple of things inspired.
Yeah, you have to jump in. You have to dive in with innovation, and that's what we do for a living with brands and retailers, and we'll kind of show you how to do that. By the way, just housekeeping real quick. If you have a question, there's a place for questions in the box on the right-hand side. So put your question in at the end. If we have time, we'll address those questions.
And this is one of the things we thought was kind of a big deal for the industry. If anyone that knows us knows how much we love Angela Ahrens. She, from the beginning, has been such a bright light to the industry and how she approached customer experience design. She's almost like the original CX transformation artist with Burberry. We played her video all the time. So we were so excited when she went to Apple, and we're looking for such great things from her because we know this is a visionary woman. This is a woman attached to a brand as visionary as Apple that could do great things. So for her to leave was kind of crushing to us and many others because you have to wonder why. A theory is she probably wasn't enabled to do what she was capable of. And we're seeing a lot of that right now, which is frustrating, that leadership is still really bowing down to quarterly sales, monthly same-store sales comparisons, and Wall Street versus Wall Street's fault too, but being able to invest in the things that are going to create long-term growth and get back into not a surviving but a thriving mode. And it's concerning that we have to wonder how many more Angela Ahrens are not being able to do what they're capable of within retail organizations.
Yeah, this was a scary moment, I think, for those of us in retail, because we had looked to Angela for years as kind of the icon of store innovation and bringing digital inside the store, as she did with Burberry. And the fact that she was at Apple, I think, for 5 years, and didn't make a whole lot of splash, and then left. It's concerning, I guess.
Which gets to flagships.
Yes. So flagships being held accountable, I think, is our first kind of trend. So it's the things that we're looking for. We're going to have 6 of these takeaways from our trip to New York via NRF and NYC. And flagships being held accountable, I think, is a big one that we saw. And what is this driven by? It's driven by economic and behavioral realities. You can no longer invest in a flagship just for brand immersion's sake, just to have fun with your customers, just to expose your customers to your brand. Sure, that's a piece of it, but it can't be the only thing. If you think about a strategy for a flagship, and we've worked on several flagships in our careers, it's got to be about brand immersion, sure, but it's got to be, talk about a testing vehicle for innovations. It's a great playground to say, all right, we got an idea. Let's test this out in our flagship to see if it works, refine it, and then be able to be sure about rolling it out to the footprint of, say, 2,000 stores. And ultimately, you're going to have to be accountable to the C-level. You're going to have to be accountable to shareholders. You're going to have to sell stuff in that thing, right? It can't just be there as a shiny object.
And it's disconcerting how many projects we've been part of where we can't get a business case built for the things that we're learning inside of these flagships on what's working, but also what's not working. It's irresponsible, and we're stressing to everybody to get smarter about your flagship strategy.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about innovation a lot, and we pair that with being able to measure those innovations, because it's critical, because somebody at some time will say, all right, great, what's the ROI of that innovation? So building business cases is a big piece of what we do. On the right-hand side here, you'll see the radar itself and some of the applicable technologies that we're going to go through here with a few different examples. And you can see that the trajectory and the momentum of a lot of these dots moving toward the center are big. There's big jumps being had. Technology is really coming quick. I mean, NRF this year.
Oh my gosh.
How many booths were technology? 8 out of 10 were tech?
It was wild. It used to be all back-end infrastructure stuff.
Exactly.
And this one, it was facing customers.
It is. It's customer-facing innovations. It's really interesting stuff.
And a lot of talk about how to use them well and wisely.
Yeah. So as we talked about with flagship stores, I mean, these are just a few headlines, and these are, I think, from the past 60 days. So these are new. These are flagships, big flagships in New York that are closing. So, we're going to go through a couple of examples on kind of each polar opposite of a flagship that's really succeeding and a flagship that kind of missed the mark.
Start with a wise quote from a wise woman.
Yeah, RSR Research, one of our go-tos. So the long and short of it is that retailers are recognizing the importance of the store to their futures. and continue to seek ways to improve the in-store experience for everyone involved. We need more practical examples of store success. This is from managing partner, co-founder, Paula Rosenblum from RSR Research.
She's got some really good summaries from Future Source, but also from NRF. But this is so important. We have to have more thriving examples. And that really starts with one that knocked our socks off. As we said, man, I want to take the college course on how this was developed. But the Nike flagship on 5th, not the one down in Soho, but on 5th, was astounding. That's a word he used, right? 6 floors. It was wow. But here's a headline on this whole thing. If you're going to build a flagship, know the intention of the store. Mm-hmm. Know what your brand is about and the story you're trying to tell, and fall in. We walk in these stores and we're always auditing them. And the first thing we said to ourselves is, what's the store about? And what's the store about? And we got it immediately. It's about innovation.
It bleeds.
You see the thing in the middle. It's like walking into NASA. It's talking to you like this and then 1, 2, 3. And I mean, it wasn't something that you expected. And it could be a little bit overwhelming. But at the same time, that was probably in a good way. And the main thing we noticed is whether you're at the customize your clothing or your sneaker area, or you're getting inspired by the digital mannequins and the digital catwalks, or even having to download and pay on a podium and have stuff brought to you. People had shopping bags in their hands.
They did. I mean,
they were all about it.
This is 6 floors. Each floor was different from the one previous. And it's at an interesting location, right? It's in Manhattan, in Times Square. It's basically at the corner of International Boulevard, right? When I say international, it's international. It's truly international. I mean, there were people from every country in this store. There were well over 500 people in the store when we were there. I mean, 500 people in the store, and half of them were carrying bags, which is really great. But this is a unique store because it's a flagship in an international city, in an international place, and it is such a great brand play. It literally put Nike back on the map for innovation.
Really
Bravo,
set the
Nike.
bar.
It did.
It's at the bar. It's worth the trip.
It gave us chills when we went in there, and that doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, it's astounding.
Yeah.
And then we watched some others. And of course, we wanted to go see CoverGirl's flagship. And the first thing you walked in and saw was this Olivia, the augmented, the AI greeter, who was RBF to the max. She was not very nice. She didn't smile.
That's crazy.
She didn't really greet you. And it was very hard to really want to enter really with her. Now, we saw some novel things. We thought the lipstick QR code was kind of cool. And of course, everyone saw Ed's makeover. We had a lot of fun with this is a purchase display. It's really fabulous. It's so fun. You pick up a lipstick and it shows up on your face, and then they color coordinate you with the eyeliner and the eyeshadow. And that was really fun. But at the same time, we always talk about how technology is supposed to make things more human. You have this really fun, engaging experience, and no one was talking to us. Out of 10 people, probably 1 person spoke to us. We went upstairs, there were 6 girls, and no one, they looked at us like we weren't supposed to be there. We felt like we weren't supposed to be there. But the whole point is we didn't understand what this was supposed to be about. What was the key takeaway I was getting from the CoverGirl store? Right. Did they build this flagship because they felt like they had to, and they wanted to be an immersive billboard? Or did they do it because they wanted you to walk away with a different meaning of their brand, with a different feeling towards love or purchase behavior? Yeah,
and not to say that everything has to be technologically driven. Allbirds, right? So think about Allbirds.
Yes, Allbirds was fantastic. If you guys don't know Allbirds, know that brand. It's amazing. It's the antithesis of Nike. It's about not having a logo and sustainable products, and the stories were tactile and immersive. It was wonderful.
No technology at all to be spoken of.
Yeah, probably 1/100th, if not less of that, for their flagship.
But 100% on brand. Really well done.
Yeah.
All right, it's enough of me wearing lipstick.
Yeah. It was great, though. So retail automation, our second one. Back to this whole expectations thing. Shopper expectations are increasing, but our automation should not be to replace humans. It should be to replace friction and to use personal data in a non-creepy way to resolve those frictions and let people enjoy their shopping experience more.
Yeah, and you'll see ESL here on the slide, electronic shelf labels. First time showing up on the radar, and it's starting in at 3.3. So you'll see there's a lot of different data points, a lot of different technologies that apply. And if you saw the last webinar, it's interesting because each of the sections in the last webinar, there was maybe 2 or 3 or 4 technologies that were tying to each of the sections. This time it's 7, 8, or 9, or 10 different technologies.
Very true.
It's these tech are quickly becoming table stakes.
So speaking of removing friction, don't you want to shop with her? As we said, this is on the floor interact, and this is supposed to be what the Alexa come to life is a bot. Like, where's the knife?
Horrible.
Pull it out.
This gave me nightmares. Do not do this.
Don't do this. The emotional resonance is not going to be good. However, here's a great example of AI done right. This is Millie. She's done by a group called 20 Billion Neurons. And Millie is in a store where she is not supposed to be replacing a person. Clearly, she's enough of sort of an avatar to not feel like a real person, but she has what's been done very well, one key intent. And that's the lesson on this one. Know human psychology and have a key purpose. Millie has one purpose where she's at, to get people to pick up the sunglasses, because Millie is driven by the fact that if you pick up sunglasses, you have a 40% increase of conversion. Keep it simple, and she's waving at people and she's smiling and she's able to follow where you're standing, so she feels human enough to be impactful, but not enough to be creepy or to be a parent about trying to replace having a salesperson.
Exactly. And she is AI driven, so she has some facial recognition software built in there. And again, this probably couldn't fly in Europe with the privacy laws, but if she was able to associate a face with a name, and you left the store and came back a month later, she actually could recognize you and greet you by name. So the technology's there. The question is that too far over the creepy line? Will it fly legally? But you know, this is a really elegant solution to AI.
And how do you skin
retail.
this for your brand? How could you make Millie a character in a toy store, or a hipster in an apparel store, or a makeup advisor? It's keeping it simple that's so important.
Yeah, American Eagle Outfitters. So we were excited about this because they had a booth at NRF, and you know, there's a lot of different dressing room technologies that are being used and are out there, and they wanted to exhibit theirs as well. And what's the name of this technology? Aaliyah. So we were excited about American Eagle, and we went and saw the booth, and it was, I'd say, underwhelming at best. So again, if you're not able to really execute well on some of these things, sure, yes, the AI is there, and you're able to you know, find a different size that you need, and you can have employees be notified to bring you different things. And okay, got it, great, awesome. But maybe a little more, and just right?
It's still a problem in the field. And again, walking the field as much as we do, it's so preventable, these down screens and unstuck shelves and this and that. There are field teams that can help you with this. And what we want to stress is PR can work both ways. If you can't deliver on your promise of something like this, don't do it. Because not only will it not resonate with your shoppers, your leadership is going to see it as a failure. And we've seen this happening with things like a digital signage experiment where they didn't have a business case, had bad content, the screens were down, and leadership didn't want to invest in technology again because they said it didn't work. Not the case. It's really up to us to make sure that we're executing in a way that it actually can connect and it's going to actually be on. Yeah,
exactly. Kroger partnered with Microsoft to create, again, ESL's electronic shelf labels, and this is coming quick.
Yeah.
And they're doing some tests right now, but it's we're gonna show you a little video here of how it works, and it's a fascinating partnership because they've gone around Amazon. They're not on the Amazon cloud. They really are partnering with Microsoft for that purpose. And if you think about the shopping list, and if you think about what can be had at the shelf, and being able to integrate your shopping list on your mobile device to the electronic shelf label inside your store, inside your Kroger store, it'll assign you a fruit, for instance, either a banana or a pumpkin or something like that. And then knowing that you are in that aisle because it recognizes you, so there's the banana, that it will light up. So making your shopping trip quicker. Again, it's technology removing friction, which is great. Not to mention all the other benefits that you can have with upselling and interacting with the device to say, hey, if you bought this, you can also get 20% off of that.
And it's interesting because shopping 365, we know that 365 is not going to be rolling out anymore from Whole Foods, but they are all electronic shelf labels, and it's really good. I shop it a lot. Mm-hmm. But there's another case in point here, and that is the creative collaboration. Together, Kroger and Microsoft are doing something that separately they couldn't. But they're also creating kind of a competitive kryptonite, right? They're able to fend off Amazon and some of the competition at the helm because they're doing something somebody isn't. We'll talk about unique experience signatures in a little bit, but these are important things, doing things that aren't me too, but me uniquely.
Yeah, I mean, collaboration is big in the fashion world, right?
Yeah.
So you think about Supreme and some of those things, and being able to collaborate with different brands. Why should technology be any different? Why not partner with a sexy tech brand like Microsoft to say, hey, here's what we're going to do. We're going to get some great press out of it. And you're really you're solving real shopper issues.
Yeah, and we know, and we'll get to the next one, price is one of the biggest ones. We know that CX experience is critical, but price, as we know, it's always been an issue. And here's the thing, when it comes down to it, we look at some of these technologies and say, what can they do for me? But if you get down to the human perspective, things like ESL, it's really about trust, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Because when you go into a store and you expect it to be the right price, a fair price, a competitive price, and a price reflective of all channels, you want to have a peace of mind in that. And this automation can really help with things like that. And that can work both ways. As we're experimenting with these things, we'll see with what happened with Target, right? Mm-hmm. Target had a little bit of a flub in that some of the dynamic pricing that they're using was different outside the store than inside the store. So yes, this is about trust, but another example of such kudos to Target for owning it and saying, here's the fix. A couple of days ago, they did an app upgrade so that not only do you not have any issues anymore about whether price is right based on where you're standing, mm-hmm. but every item is verified and you go over to the price match policy.
Yeah, just so you're aware. So there was a local story that broke, and it talked about and it showed and it demonstrated the app would change prices about 500 feet away from the store. Mm-hmm. So I think the concept behind that was, the accusation I think was, if you're a shopper and we're going to show you a lower price, and if you buy it online, great, it's at that lower price. But the minute that you get into proximity of the store itself, it was giving you a different price. So kudos to Target for getting that fixed in a couple of days.
Yeah, when you flub up, own up, because when you have trust with people, they'll forgive you.
Exactly.
And this is, again, we've got this common theme of humanity here. This was we just had to put this in because this is amazing. This is a cafe in Tokyo, and the woman on your right is a paraplegic, correct?
Quadriplegic.
Quadriplegic. She can only move her eyes.
Yeah.
And she is controlling the robot in this cafe through her eyes. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And this is a very far-flung example, but an example of the whole thing that people today are starting to move culturally into they want to be part of a greater purpose.
That's so true.
And especially for those who are geared that way, it's so important to over-index on that and to be where their values are, mm-hmm. and enhance what it means to be human.
Yeah, so this woman on the right, they have several pilots. They call them pilots, and they're either at home or in the hospital. They're laying down, and they have screens above them, and they're able to move a laser with their eye to navigate the robot, to also interact with different guests. So if you see the robot there in the center, there's a camera there. So I mean, we've been poo-pooing robots for consumer purposes since we started this radar. But I mean, think about the use of this and the meaning that it carries and the purpose that people have. This, if I was in Tokyo, I would absolutely go here to get the experience, because it's such an enlightened solution.
So you may be sitting there in your teams around the board or the conference table going, what on earth does that have to do with retail? So here's the point we try and make with some of these kind of edgier ones. It's about inspiration. And for what we do, we're ideation, inspiration, innovation people too, but we look through such a wide lens, because sometimes things like this can spark ideas that you never would have thought. It was like going to South by Southwest versus an industry show. Mm-hmm. It's so important to be watching what's out there. And so let's get to another one that is probably worth noting. And that is what happened with Walmart with self-checkout. Since we're on this humanity thing, humanity can bite back. Unfortunately, when we're trying these new things, test and learn, Walmart dropped Scan and Go because they were finding that it took shrink to whole new epic proportions. I think that when one of the head guys came in and saw that a guy with 100 things in his basket only scanned 40, they said, this is probably not going to work.
This is why we can't have nice things.
You know, again, we're in a brave new world. It's a new world order. So it's a point of testing. Sometimes you have to be looking at what's not going to work so you can then figure out what will.
Right. So let's play another video for you here. So this is Caper, and this is a cart, and they're also actually they've been funded for about 35 million, I think, and they use several technologies for self-checkout. So they've got image recognition here, so it's not just scanning, say, a barcode. It actually sees the packaging. It got deep learning and future sensing once it enters the card itself. The card itself also has a scale in it, so it knows how much is in there and how much things weigh. It's an interesting technology. It's going to be carried over to baskets as well. It's driven by a tablet and tablet interface to be able to guide people and wayfinding around the store, upsell, show them sales. Interesting solution, right? So again, it's removing friction, it's making things easy, and it's enhancing the experience.
Maybe Walmart should try that one next,
right?
Yeah,
maybe they should. So the name of this is called Caper. Here's another one. This is called a nano store, and it's the size of a parking spot, which is fascinating. So a lot of times there's areas outside that have kind of trailers and kind of shipping container kind of stores. We saw that in Montreal, actually. This is another kind of convenience store option where it's literally dropped in a small space. Mm-hmm. It is a convenience store. You swipe your credit card to enter the store. It is a box that you enter, and it's kind of a glorified vending machine. Mm-hmm. But it knows what you got, it knows what you picked up, and you walk out and it just charges your card that you've already swiped to get in there. So again, it's retail automation is here. It's real, and this is another example of it.
And it's a really inspiring example of how your brick and mortar is transforming into completely new formats, and how you can go test some of these new formats and even test some new innovations in small controllable environments like this without the risk of theft or operational issues.
Mm-hmm. So personalization becoming table stakes. I mean, again, you'll see kind of on the radar many, many different technologies that make personalization come to life inside the store. What is it driven by? It's driven by impatience. When we're online and we're on Amazon and we go back to a website, it recognizes who we are and it gives us a personalized, curated list of the things we might be interested in. In brick and mortar, not so much, but it's getting there. So there's several examples we're going to go through here that really answer the question, which one's right for me? And it takes a collaborative effort with technology and other folks to kind of bring this to life inside the store.
Back to expectations, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. So here's a quote. Loyalty is a fusion of emotional engagement, trust, and an ability for a brand to meet or exceed expectations. An increase in loyalty of only 7% can lift lifetime profits per customer by as much as 85%. So this is from the Customer Loyalty Engagement Index report from this year. Very fresh.
Think about those numbers, especially in relation to what's happening in retail today. 7% more loyalty can increase profit by 85%. And think about how the store plays into that, and how every single thing that people touch and encounter in the store.
Well, a phrase that we use a lot is getting people off the couch and into your store. And here's the thing, if you do that well and you do it right the first time, mm-hmm. What are they going to do? They're going to come back. So it's creating that habit loop to be able to really nail that first visit, that important first visit, not only from the humanization of sales associates, giving them that bespoke experience inside the store so that they want to tell their friends about it, but so that when they have the idea that they need X, Y, or Z, they come back to that store.
And they'll be confident that their expectations are being met. And so making it for me and fixing the friction, especially from a female perspective, guys have fit issues too, but women particularly have terrible fit issues, and it's been historically always been the issue in every channel. So this is a group called Value Box, who is able to let you do Okay, somewhat creepy, Walking Dead looking, maybe, kind of.
Look at this image. Looks like she just tore the heart out of somebody and blood all over. It's crazy.
But still, you can scan your body and even put it in your face and have a 360 of your body. And I mean, I think most women are going, oh, please give that to me. Because you can use that both online, but also in stores, so you never have to try something on again. And that's very inspiring. And if that becomes a norm, we're going to fix one of the biggest issues with shopping for clothing. But some issues tied to that have been that all the way back to over a decade ago, I think I was studying the TeleFit boxes where you could walk in and radio wave scanned your body and made a bot of you. What the problem was that the clothing manufacturers and the data of the fit and the dimensions of the product were not always accurate, particularly coming from plants from other areas of the world, this and that. So these guys, emerging tech, Fashion Genome, is solving that by basically using oodles and oodles of different types of data with thousands of brands. So I think what they're saying, data is the new Lego. So they can make sure that there is a confident match between people's body size dimensions and the clothing SKUs and size dimensions. All she wrote, if that happens. Again, though, that's going to make buying online easy peasy and fit is guaranteed. So if you sell apparel, if you're in that industry, you better make sure that people have a reason to go into your store versus, well, I have to try something on, right?
Yeah. It's kind of the Wild West. You know, they're kind of capturing that first mover advantage by, consolidating all the brands into one kind of standard sizing.
It'll make the store destination more than ever. And speaking of great destinations and Warby Parker, I mean, who did omnichannel better from the get-go than Warby Parker?
Yeah.
And they have this new, speaking of which one's right for me, home try-on with it's the iPhone 10, correct?
Yeah.
And you can download upgrade and basically try on your glasses, and no matter how you move your head, it's a perfect fit, and bing, bam, boom, you can buy or get the home try-on.
This is one of the most intuitive experiences with AR I've ever seen. In fact, probably the most intuitive. So I just got the iPhone 10, and when you do it, you have to scan your face like this, right? So it puts, I don't know how many, 30,000 infrared dots on your face, so it knows your face inside and out. And Warby Parker tapped into that technology. So you've already mapped your face on the iPhone 10. Now with the app, I mean, within 3 seconds, I download the app, I launched it, and boom, glasses were on my face, and it was moving with me, and it was as intuitive of an experience as you'll ever see. Absolutely the way to do it. And look at the interface. Home try-on or buy for $95 or press a like button. I mean, it's crazy simple.
So let's just stop for a second and talk about Warby Parker and how their model is so inspiring for the industry. When they started, they basically started with a friction, which is it's expensive to buy glasses, and I don't want just one pair, and I don't really want to have to go somewhere to try something on. They solved all those things. They made it so easy to be able to buy online, or when they got into the store, to make it fluid. Then they started giving you the ability to not only go fetch your prescription, but get a prescription.
Yeah.
Then we see pop-ups with magazines and newsstands. Now we see stores that are also cross-selling books.
Right.
An amazing data profile, so they know who you are no matter where you're at, but they don't stop delivering. They keep delivering because they understand that innovation is a mindset that never stops. You're never done.
They disrupted an industry and a monopoly, a virtual monopoly with Luxottica. And they came in and they really, really disrupted an industry. And again, this is a great example of a pure play, what we call kind of online only, that have gone now to brick and mortar, of really disrupting and taking significant market share because they didn't have old dogma. They didn't have old systems that had to tie together. They were brand new. They opened a store like, all right, here we are. We're right here. And oh yeah, all the stuff that you've done online at home, it translates right here to the store, and it's seamless. They've really done it well.
They did it by saying, I want to shop my brand the way I'd want to shop my brands. And we talk about this in cracking category conventions. That's a headline we use a lot because we love to crack category conventions, difficult stuff. And here's another example of this. Make it super easy to not only design your own ring, but try it on my hand. I mean, how many guys would love to secretly, covertly send this to someone so they're not going to mess up? It's just so simple. How come this took 10 years to show up?
I know.
Great.
Pretty surprising.
Good. Let's have more of it.
So Macy's, speaking of waiting 10 years, Virtual reality.
Like 100.
They've created a virtual reality experience for their stores to be able to kind of lay out your room, whatever your room at home is, and then apply the furniture that you see inside the store to your room. So you'd be able to bring it to life. You see it in a visual, and it's another way. Again, should have been around 5 years ago, but forever.
Now.
At least they're there, and they're getting it. And the sales have increased by 40% with VR-enabled stores. I think there's 90 of them. 90 stores. VR-enabled stores are outpacing sales by 40% versus non-VR stores. So they're really kind of making an impact here. And, furniture is one of those dinosaurs. Mm-hmm. Furniture stores have been a dinosaur for a long time. And VR is one way. There's other ways to do that. There's other ways to innovate, to crack the category. It's got to be on brand. It's got to represent your brand, though. Yeah,
we saw some fun stuff at the show to be able to design rooms together and throw them up on a screen from like Comfy did that, some others.
Right. So this is the Orcam MyMe. And sorry, I had to look at the name because that's just a really weird name.
Sounds like Orca.
Yeah. Orcam MyMe. But, it's a camera. And think about this from a sales associate perspective. Like we talked about earlier, you go to an Amazon and it knows who you are. And, it doesn't ask for your password every time. And it has your past purchase history. When we walk into brick and mortar, we don't have that luxury, right? So last quarter, you might have seen Face Note, where people got paid to take a selfie inside the store, and then when you walk back into the store, the sales associate would know who you are because the camera would pick up your face, again, opt in, and know your past purchase history. Well, this could be a way, to do that as well, where the sales associate maybe attached to their name tag has a little pinhole camera and recognizes a face. You assimilate a purchase with that face. And next time the person comes in, the sales associate on the left-hand side talks to Jane, and Jane is recognized through that camera. And then the sales associate with their Apple Watch, boom, it says, oh, this is Jane Smith. Her past purchase was blank, blank, and blank. I mean, that's where we're going. Again, the technology's here. It's the creep factor, and it's the legal aspect that we have to be concerned about. But this innovation train is really rolling.
And that one comes back to trust too. We always talk about how brands all have attached expectations, right? Mm-hmm. For certain brands I don't trust, I maybe don't want that, but for others, like say Black and White Market, where they're already reaching into a computer to get your name, why not make it easy?
Right, exactly. So visual search, speaking of AI, it's ready for prime time. And this is, again, based on the brain's bias for visuals. And Google AdWords came out years ago. We were all about searching with typed words, but we know voice is coming quick, but there's also visual search, which is coming quick. And it's being able to search by look or by image of the item, not by text. And, just here are the stats. The stats are there. We talk about new technologies for US and UK younger versus older millennial internet users. Again, millennials divided into two different groups. Would you be comfortable with as part of your digital shopping experience? Ability to search by image, a visual search is number one for both of those groups, 62% and 61%.
And Home Depot here in Atlanta has been playing around with it for a couple of years, and they'll be probably the first ones to say it's not quite there yet, but we know that when it gets there, we want to have first movers advantage. So for a while now, through their app, you could take a picture and find something in aisle or know if something similar is there. But they've also been playing around with Pinterest and being able to shop a look. We think this is really important because you've got to follow cultural cues and cultural trends, and people like to shop from visual images now. And if that's the case, make it easy to be where they want to be anyway. Mm-hmm. And Reformation is a great one too, because this is, we want to stress, visual search is not always as in visual mapping. Sometimes it's, I want to visually search off a picture. And Reformation's like that. They have one of every single item in the store. In this case, you can walk over to a touch screen and touch the look you're wanting to get, and you can find it your size, and you can even plug in and see what things that you might want to put with it. These are habits we have already online, so why not bring them into the store? Mm-hmm. And then let's get into direct to consumer. So just to take a second on that, such inspiration coming from this. And it's really important that we spend some time on this because, again, being in the trenches, we know the frictions that have historically been there between the store that has the typical vendor manufacturer CPG and says, here's my rules. And the CPG, who in many cases has a lot of really great ideas, it gets frustrated by not being able to test and basically collaborate, especially if they're not a category captain. So now that they're finding ways to go out and direct to consumer, it's actually creating more stress for the staid kind of traditional retailers. And we're hoping to appeal to people to work together more collaboratively, but also for those DTCs to go crazy. Because it's been shown to work. Look at Best Buy. Best Buy was in serious pain for a long time, and they changed their attitude on this. And boom, look at how they've actually changed their store.
Yeah, I mean, here's Tide, right? So the Echo Box, you've probably heard about the Echo Box, where it's direct to consumer shipped, right? Yes, it is available through Amazon, but I don't think that's going to happen very long. Make no mistake, there's a clear movement for brands themselves wanting to create a handshake directly with consumers and not have to go through the wholesale channels, not have to go through department stores, not have to go through Amazon. Believe me, we're hearing from them. They're calling us. So
get the data for themselves.
Yeah, the data, the margins are obviously better. The ability to reach them on social media and home delivery is there. So not that Amazon's shaking in their boots, they've got a lot going on, but think about Tide times 1,000, times 10,000 different consumer brands that are going to create these relationships. And again, it's not just about detergent, right? If Tide were to own clean clothes, what would that mean from a services perspective? How can Tide incorporate services into their product, not just shipping the product, right? Amazon's nailed efficiency, they've nailed shipping. What is the thing that Tide owns in the hearts and the minds, right, of consumers? How do you deliver on that with services, not just, say, home delivery?
And frankly, once they're in home delivery, they can go into brand extensions pretty easy, can't they?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's a great example of Netflix, and talk about DTC, direct to consumer. This was at going out and finding the customer where they are. This is JFK's International Terminal, and it's Netflix advertising a new show, right? It's international flavors, and it's just a cool little pop-up experience, and you've got a touch screen there to kind of see the trailer of the new show and pick your favorite international food, and out through the vending machine, I use that term lightly, comes a different food. Like this one is Taste of Mexico, so it's some nuts or beans or something from Mexico.
So Glossier, of course, we had to go in New York, and this was a great example of one of the things core to our services is creating unique experience signatures. Not only was this completely non-branded from the outside, even the staircase up was non-branded. People were wearing pink mechanics uniforms. The people who were working in there were not glamour babes. They were just really very nice, approachable, normal people. Limited inventory, but beautifully merchandised, very flexible fixtures. And your bag, as you can see right here, after you purchased on a tablet, you went to a waiting area where it came down a conveyor belt. Really, kudos all day long for setting up something unique, and that place was hopping.
They were completely nailed their target market, like 16 to 22. They know exactly who they're going after, and they were happy to be there.
Yeah, it was great. And then we found a sleeper that we didn't really, someone kind of gave us a tip that lives in New York on this. This is Showfields. And imagine you could mash up a WeWork with a product incubation firm and a retailing area. And that's pretty much what they're doing. They have little pods through here where you can go in, and one of the things we found so inspiring is a completely beautiful mix-up of personal touch, tactile product experiences, and touchscreens, so that they're actually in each one of these little product, would you say like cubbies, able to display a product, tell a story, and give a human touch to it, even with some novelty like you see up here with how they use your digital sign.
And they're so successful, they're building 2 more floors, 2 more stories of this. It's an interesting pop-up experience.
And the people who are buying these products are working in the back. So just a quick sneak peek as we're closing up here of a few future potentials we saw. We've seen this starting to finally happen. We've been tracking these interactive cooler doors for a really long time. Walgreens is now taking these out. They're embedding cameras, sensors, and digital screens together so that you can basically shop it from the outside before you open the door. But what's really interesting is they're being funded by broadcast and digital budgets.
Exactly.
So watch for more of those.
That was in your book 11 years ago, that media's coming to the stores.
Took a while.
That's right. Yes, it did. So this is a new patent from Apple that is probably going to be an AR VR kind of glass case of some sort. We're not sure exactly what it is yet, but it is something to consider. You know, whenever Apple comes out with a product, it's a seismic event. They have filed for patents, so you never know. They've just announced a new thing on an announcement in March. I don't think it'll be this, but you never know.
This is a leak.
Apple's there. So,
expect something
you know,
big.
here's if you're really interested, take a screenshot of this. We're not going to repeat them all, but you know, there's 6 trends, 6 things that we saw happening, 6 takeaways from our trip to New York. And again, like we were talking about at the top, people have been asking us, all right, how do we engage HighStreet? You guys are obviously knowledgeable about the industry, give us great information. What is it that you do, right? So we talk about retail innovation, and we do a lot. We do a lot with brands, we do a lot with retailers, and we do a lot with suppliers, quite frankly, being able to help them with their innovation efforts. That could be research, it could be design, it could be creating things, it could be measuring things, it could be store strategy, zone strategy, content strategy. We do all those things. But we've created a nice little crisp one-pager front and back. So if you're a brand or a retailer, we have something called the Retail Innovation Activation Service. We said 2019 is your time to act. This has got to be your kickstart for innovation this year. So if you go to highstreetx.com, right below the fold, you'll see two circles just like this, one for suppliers, one for brands and retailers. Download the PDF so you see exactly what you'll get and even prices associated with it.
And we're nervous right now that people aren't moving fast enough.
Yeah.
We are losing sleep over it, to be honest, because we don't want to see another Payless in the news or another Gymboree in the news. It's preventable, but it's also hard, we know, to be able to get the budgets to get started. And because of this, we only have room for 3 of these this month, but we've decided to do our one-day innovation workshop for $5K. If you're having trouble getting started or having trouble getting budget, if you're having trouble opening the door to this and you need some quick, tangible ideas with a framework for ROI so you can start to prove out your innovation, so you can start to put your money where your mouth is and have a confident case study to put in front of your leadership, please let us help. Again, we only have room for 3 this month because we're busy right now.
Yeah.
But
to give you a flavor for that one day, it's, you know, unique experience signatures is a term we use a lot. We've created a system to create your own unique experience signatures. So we do research on your brand. We do a collaborative day. It's a day-long session. And the outcome of that is 5 actionable ideas that are truly unique to your brand. So again, 5K is a pretty good deal for that. But you've got to sign up in the next 2 weeks. That's really our
it's our only window.
That's our window for this. So
we hope we've inspired you with this.
Yes, thank you for joining. Like we said, the radar itself will come out early next week.
This will be recorded if you want to pass it along.
Yes.
And if you need any of the links, just let us know. We're happy to provide. We've got footnotes for everything.
Yeah. So 2019, it's a year to act.
Get moving.
Let's go. Get moving on innovation.